The following podcast contains coarse language and adult themes. This week on the show, it's more than our language that gets colourful, as we cover the entire 30-year history of the DC animated universe, and we also talk about the legacy of one of DC's oldest and most beloved characters, the OG sidekick, Dark Knight Jr. himself, the wonder that is Robbin. I'm Regs.
I'm Aady.
And this is the Film Addicts Podcast. Hey friends, welcome back to the Film Addicts Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us again. I'm here with Aady, and before we get into our what will be the scheduled programming of chatting about the DC animated universe and of course Robbin, or the Robbins, Aady, you wanted to just catch up from last episode. We had a little bit of news this week coming out of the DC camps about the Flash picture. Tell me what your thoughts are.
So the news is that all Ezra Miller projects are being held off by WB currently. Mm-hmm. So we still have the Flash coming this year. Hopefully comes this year.
Do you think they're going to still do it?
I mean, it's already done though.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to. I reckon they'll push the release. Honestly, if nothing else, they've got some serious rehabilitation to do. In that, it's not like 2.5 Men where they can just kill off Charlie Sheen, you know, like this is the Flash. They're either going to have to replace him. I heard someone say they should do the same thing they did for All the Money in the World, the Ridley Scott film that Kevin Spacey was originally in, and then they removed him and reshot all his scenes with Christopher Plummer. Someone was saying they should do that with Grant Gustin, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah, that would actually work. So what we should do is I'll ask you a question, and then we can say what we think is the best idea for them to go.
Okay, I love questions. Yeah, questions are great because they require very minimal effort on my part. So, okay, all right, and then you can tell me what you think, what your answer would be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So my question to you, or the first question for today, is: what do you think will work, and what do you think will not work for you specifically in the Flash film?
Do you mean as in how they're going to get it out now that they've had all this trouble, or just what the film is going to be?
No, just what the film is going to be in the story. Because we both know the story of how it's loosely being adapted.
From Flashpoint?
From Flashpoint.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. And I think that's DC like trying to do a soft reboot of the universe because they're not going in the direction that they would have had Zack still been kind of executive producing all this stuff, but he's clearly moved on. And it also gives Affleck the opportunity, because Affleck's clearly in it, gives him the opportunity to hang up the cape and cowl, and then Michael Keaton is seemingly going to take over as the sort of senior Batman of these universes. He's definitely in the Batgirl movie they're making. So is, what's the actor's name? J.K. Simmons, coming back as Commissioner Gordon. So I think in terms of it doing that for them, I think it's probably a good idea to get back to, well, like we were talking last week about doing individual movies about these characters that might end up having sequels. But just within the confines of a Flash movie, what I want to see is, honestly, a more faithful adaptation of Flashpoint. Where, I mean, those of you who've read the comic, and if you're listening to this, you probably have, and if not, you've seen the Flashpoint Paradox, which we'll get to shortly, which is just one of the best animated movies you'll ever see. The Flash accidentally breaks the time barrier, goes back in time, saves his mum from being murdered by, is it Zoom?
It's not Reverse Flash, is it? It's Zoom, right?
Yeah, I think it's Zoom. Or maybe it's Reverse Flash, or everybody yell at me in the comments, whatever. And then it sort of changes the world dramatically. And instead of, spoilers, Batman being Bruce Wayne, it ends up being Thomas Wayne, and Bruce was killed in that alley, and Martha goes insane and becomes the Joker, and then you have Aquaman and Wonder Woman who were lovers. Yeah, right? It's so good. Addie's doing that. Because this is a podcast, you can't tell. Addie's doing the mind-blowing, hands on his head. Aquaman and Wonder Woman are lovers, and Atlantis and Themyscira are at war with one another. Superman's trapped in some sort of government installation. It's just, there's so much interesting shit going on with these characters who you're really familiar with, and the Flash is just in the middle of it, just trying to figure it out. And he also loses his powers and has to recreate the accident with the help of Thomas Wayne, and that's honestly what I want. And from just seeing the trailers and stuff, we've had a conversation about Ezra Miller when we talked about Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I've talked about it on the Stitch Up at length. I don't think he's a good actor. I'm not interested in his private life, whatever he's doing. It sounds like he's acting a fool, but regardless of that tabloid stuff, I don't think he's a good actor. And I don't think he fits Barry Allen at all. Like I was saying, Grant Gustin's a much better choice. Probably he's even tied into that universe. At one point, they were going to have Ryan Reynolds do it, I remember. Then he ended up being Green Lantern. But more to the point, it doesn't seem like that's what they're doing. There's multiple Flashes. Superwoman comes into it, or Supergirl, rather, who is kind of usurping Henry Cavill's spot in the DCU. And it's not going to be an adaptation of Flashpoint in the way that I would want it to be. What my hope is that they do somehow manage to pull in some of those threads, like Thomas Wayne, and they get the guy. What's his name? The guy who played Batman's dad in BVS, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Get him in the bat suit with the red bat and the thing, and just, you know what I'm saying, man? Get Gal Gadot back if you must. She's got not a fantastic actress either, but she's clearly marked herself as being Wonder Woman in this universe. Put her in age makeup, and then get Momoa in as well and have them fight. You can do all this stuff. You just got to pay a bit of money. But as I said, I don't think that's what it is going to be. That would be my hope, though. What do you want? What do you desire the most? I sound like a genie. 3 wishes. These wishes 3. Tell me what they are. The Flash to not suck, number 1.
It's a hard question for me to answer because,
yeah,
to be honest, the Flashpoint is probably my favorite comic of all time, unless until I finish Kingdom Come, which is getting really close. But
it gets better and better too as you go on. It's immaculate.
But yeah, for me, there is nothing as wholesome, as emotional, and as impactful as the last page where Barry gives the Thomas Wayne letter to Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne in tears says, "You're one hell of a messenger."
Yeah. It's good writing. It's really good writing.
It's something that if you're not a fan, you won't really connect with. But for me, the starting of we're finally getting a Flash film. After decades of this character actually existing, we're finally getting one feature film with this character, right? And Flashpoint itself is a storyline that pulls threads from universes, but is at the heart of it, it's a Flash story altogether. He's the one doing everything. He's the one who has to get back because he realizes that what he did is wrong, and he tries to fix his mistake or redo his mistake. But
it gets a bit muddled with fourth dimensional logic. Yeah, I totally understand.
But yeah, and that scene, man, at the end, if you're a Batman fan and you don't cry, come on. And for me, I don't that's the core of the Flashpoint to me. It's how Barry convinces this dark and gruesome Thomas Wayne to help him go back to a universe where his son lives. Just imagine that. right? And it's the story of Thomas Wayne and Bruce Wayne never actually meeting, but like being this force of good, even though in two different universes, right?
Mm. And it's also that Thomas ends up, well, both of them kind of get closure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, after all these years.
And that won't work. I'm pretty sure it won't work, even if they do it or not. I'm hoping they do. It will never work because we don't have that connection or that time that we have to spend with Bruce Wayne or to understand what he actually lost with Thomas Wayne not being here. And even if they do the leisure scene, it's gonna fall flat.
Yeah. And
with like everything coming in with that, there's supposed to be 2 Flash now in the film. Like in the trailer,
there's 2 Ezra Millers. I think everyone will agree is too many. Racing around the universe, super fast, slapping people in the face or whatever the hell he did. I don't know. Oh no, that was the other guy. Man, DC's not having much luck with their actors this week. Fuck. They've canned the Deadshot movie too. Whatever, who cares? Yeah, no, I'm totally on board with what you're saying, and it would be ideal. It'll be interesting. I mean, the sharp right turn that they could make is that Michael Keaton isn't actually playing the Batman that he played originally in the 1980s and 1990s. He's playing Thomas Wayne, and he is the father from the Flashpoint universe, and Affleck is the son. That might be cool. I think it would confuse the shit out of people, but they could be playing a long con on that one. I don't know, and it's not a bad idea, but it's something. It's interesting, and that's all I'm looking for at the moment with that film. I want it to be
interesting.
Yeah, something that's. And I guess you can't really say that they're trying to capitalize on the success of No Way Home because they were already in the process of making this film when that came out. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but that's if we ever see it too, because the way things are going. Apologies if the audio's crackling a little bit there. We're having a bad connection, but so we sound like Daleks for a minute. It sounds like they don't want anything to do with Ezra Miller, and probably rightly so. Like he's the things that he's doing are not petty crimes; they're assaults and some serious stuff. That's not the Flash. That's not Barry Allen. But then again, if I had the kind of money that he has, I'd probably go insane as well.
I don't believe that. Not to that extent, but.
Fly all the way over to where you live just to come to your house and tell you to get out of your own house and slap you or something. I promise I would never do that. So yeah, that's the Flash, and I hope we see something. Maybe it's going to be a case of I don't know. I feel bad for all the other people involved. Honestly, the people who've it's supposed to be Affleck's swan song and Michael Keaton's a return to the DC universe and all this stuff. Fans have been looking forward to this for a long time, and just because of the behavior of one, very troubled young man, we're all being let down. A lot of people worked really hard on that film: directors, writers, gaffers, caterers, props people, makeup artists, costume designers, all these people who are just doing the job. As tradespeople, basically. They're not paid the millions of dollars that the stars are. Now their work is going unseen, and that can be troublesome because then that means they won't get noticed by other people to do more work, and that's how this industry kind of floats. And yeah, I feel bad for those people, and I hope they work it out.
Fingers crossed that The Flash is actually a good film.
Yeah.
And we finally get to see the Flash that, we love.
That's all I'm hoping for, yeah. Something interesting and the Barry Allen that we recognize. So we'll see how it goes. But to get back to the point, not that nerd shit isn't the point as it is, we're going to talk about the DC animated universe, and it is vast. I have to tell you, I didn't actually realize it was this big. They have been making feature-length animated movies since 1993. Now, Addie is going to go into a little bit more depth on this one about how they are connected. As of the Flashpoint Paradox, the films have their own continuity. Previous to that, there are quite a few that we will go through. We're just going to touch on them quickly, but we're going to talk about the ones in continuity pretty specifically because they do lead into our conversation about the Robbins. So I'm just going to start at the top. I think that's the best way to do it, and we're going to work our way down, and then we get to the ones that you're a bit more familiar with, Addie. I think we go into your feeling about them because they really are doing things in the genre that the movies can't.
Absolutely, and it's so good to see just that point. Like not a lot of people are watching those films, but the people who are, it's something else. If you like, especially the Flashpoint Paradox continuity, it's insane.
Yeah,
it's insane how groundbreaking those things are with the budget that they have and just the amount of stories that they're telling.
And the animation kind of became a little bit more uniform. They had a visual continuity as well as a story continuity. My co-host on the Stitch Up back when we did the Doctor Strange episode years ago, Ben McGregor, one of my dearest friends, he said, DC does animated stuff second to none. They are in terms of this stuff. I mean, I'm not putting them in the same boat as Studio Ghibli or anything like that, but in terms of what they're able to achieve for feature-length animated films is pretty impressive. So I'm going to go from the top here. 1993, a film comes out. It is a feature-length version of the Batman animated series from the 90s called Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Now, those of you who've seen this will know, and those of you who haven't, beg, borrow, and steal to get this film because it is the retelling of... Why are you laughing? What's so funny? You don't like it, do you?
No, I'm just embarrassed because I haven't seen it.
Oh, you ragamuffin. Ragamuffin? What am I? From 1942? What's going on? You got to see the Batman. See? Stupid. But yes, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, it's kind of a retelling of Batman's origin story by way of a love story. And it's fantastic. It's really good. They've just recently made the character of the Phantasm canon as well. She, spoilers, now appears in the actual comic universe as well. But it's really fantastic storytelling. The Joker's involved. It's kind of got a bit of his origin story as well. And it was released in cinemas on Christmas Day, if I remember correctly. And that was
that's a dark day.
Yeah,
that's a dark day to release a Batman film.
Talk about stacking the deck. That's a big ask for an animated Batman movie to succeed on Christmas Day. Only a year after Batman Returns came out as well. So that's, interesting enough. Out of that series as well, I don't know if you've seen these, Addie, there was the Batman animated series, then the Superman animated series by the same creators, the same animation style. And then both of those turned into the Justice League, which ran for a long time. It's the reason why I think John Stewart, the Green Lantern, is much more popular as a Green Lantern. Yeah, right. He's the man. He's absolutely the man. And definitely the rise of his popularity. They didn't just use Hal Jordan like normal. And then that turned into Justice League Unlimited as well. So there's been a bunch of different iterations of that kind of animation style. And then we get, in 1998, Batman and Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero, which is another jump off of this series. And also Batman, Mystery of the Batwoman, which was a pretty, it was okay. It was a little diminishing returns. But I think the interesting one around about this time is when Batman the Animated Series finished, they relaunched with a show called Batman Beyond. I'm sure some of the people... Have you seen it, Addie?
I've seen it when it first came out, but I caught it on reruns.
Yeah, of course you would, because when it first came out, you were not born.
Yes. I was thinking
very
of
young.
born.
Yeah, yeah.
And I recently started watching it, like just the first few episodes. And like when I watched it first, I didn't quite like grasp the kind of story that they're telling.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I have like a bit more bigger mind, if that's something that you say in normal life.
Yeah, older and wiser. Yep, I get it. A bigger mind. You do have a bigger mind, buddy.
So yeah, just like the first few episodes of the first season, it's so packed, and it's like not in like everything's just jumbled. It's so well written, and it's based in the future, and it's something that a lot of Batman fans want, is that gritty and the very kind of death-like future of Bruce Wayne, because Christopher Nolan did this with his trilogy, is something that Batman comics or just Batman stories never conclude to, is Bruce Wayne having a happy ending, which is why a lot of people like that trilogy.
Yeah, absolutely, and for good reason. That's not a bad thing to do. To give, I think everybody kind of expects Batman to get shafted at every turn just because of the nature of the character that he is. But it is nice. In Batman Beyond, I think what Addie's referencing is that the Batman from the original Batman animated series, who was voiced by Kevin Conroy, spectacularly, mind you, he came back and played an aging Bruce Wayne. The first episode actually sees him get so badly injured during an adventure that he says, never again. And a young man named Terry McGinnis takes over using the last of the suits that Bruce created, which is much more of a tech suit. You know, it's sleeker, it's black, it's got these sort of, bat wings that he uses to fly, but it's not like a cape. It's it was really interesting, and they made a feature-length version of it called Return of the Joker. Now, because in that series, there is no Joker. There's a gang of the Jokers, but there's no Joker as we come to know him, voiced by Mark Hamill so spectacularly. And he comes back, and it's all tied in with, I believe, Tim Drake as well, that Robbin, and there's some stuff going on there, and it's it was really good. It was really good. I'm not super into the series. It has a massive cult following, so much so that there's even a long-standing comic run of it. Even more now, there's a newer release of it, which people. There's obviously demand, and but yeah, I really dig that movie. I don't know why, it just hit a sweet spot for me in the year 2000. So and then they kind of rebooted Batman again on TV. It became The Batman. Much more colourful, much more animated, much more anime-influenced style. And they made a feature-length film called Batman vs. Dracula. The title is all you really need to know about that film.
Yep.
It's Batman. And
Dracula.
And he versus Dracula. So... And then in 2007, they did an animated adaptation of The Death of Superman. Now, later on, they would do a 2-part animated series about the death of Superman and the reign of the Superman, I believe it was called. Actually adapting almost verbatim from the graphic novel. But this was an offshoot of the animated series of Superman, where he basically just fought Doomsday and got his ass whooped by that big, bony, ponytail wrestler-looking motherfucker. Not at all like a troll from the Zack Snyderverse. He looked much more like, Macho Man Randy Savage. And it's a pretty good animated film. The thing I liked most about it is there was an extra feature on the DVD of a bunch of Superman creators talking about that run of the comics and how important it was to them. And Michael Uslan, who I talked about last week, one of the producers on all this stuff, he was actually crying, remembering the day that Superman died. And I remember it too. There was it was on the news. Superman is dead, and he's being replaced by Superman, and this by Superman with long hair, and by Superboy, and by this cyborg version, and all that stuff. It was very intense, and but I mean the animated film's fine. It's nothing fantastic. However, what is fantastic, and don't worry, we're going to get through them and get to Addie soon. I know I'm taking up a lot of the airtime here, but I just want to give people a broad idea of what DC's been doing. In 2008, they did an adaptation of the fantastic graphic novel New Frontier, or The New Frontier, sorry, which was written by Darwin Cook, R.I.P. Fantastic artist. Came from the animated world, worked on Batman and the animated series, and then came into comics, did some fantastic work, wrote Batman Ego, which the Batman, the recent release, the Matt Reeves film, is draws inspiration from. That film takes place in the 1950s, and all the superheroes are kind of very new to the world, and they're helping avert human crises in a real world context. Batman Gotham Knights came out in 2008 as well. This was a bunch of short films that were given to prominent Japanese animators, and they were to take a portion of a story. It kind of coincided with the release of The Dark Knight. A couple of those are really interesting. The animation style is fantastic. There's also a Wonder Woman movie in 2009 as well, where, funnily enough, Steve Trevor was voiced by Nathan Fillion, who would go on to voice Hal Jordan in majority of the of the animated series. He did in the New Frontier we just spoke about. Kerry Russell of Felicity fame would be Wonder Woman in that. Not bad. Haven't actually watched that one since it came out, so it might be looking a relook. As I said, Green Lantern First Night was the first feature-length animated Green Lantern film with Nathan Fillion, who is a god to me. I still reckon he should be in an animated movie and voice Black Sad. If you don't know what Black Sad is, Google it. It's a comic book that is a noir populated by animals, and Black Sad is a cat in a suit. I'll send you some pictures, Addie. It is the most baller shit. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I love it. So more crackling, damn. Okay, in 2009 as well, we had Superman and Batman, Public Enemies, which is based on the Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness run of the series in the comics. Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, which I believe was written by... Now, I'm going to have to check here, sorry, because I want to say Warren Ellis, but I think I'm going to be wrong. No, of course, Frank Quietly and Grant Morrison, where the Justice League go to Earth 2 and face their evil counterparts. Then we have Batman Under the Red Hood, which was, of course, an adaptation of the story of the return of Jason Todd, who we will get to very shortly in our Robbin conversation. That I've recently rewatched this, and it is really good. It really holds up.
Wait, just give me 1 second.
Yeah, of course.
Really big coincidence here. I watched that yesterday.
Oh, really? That's weird.
Yes.
In preparation for this?
Kind of.
Yeah. I just appreciate your commitment to what we're doing. That's very cool. Yeah, it's really good, isn't it? It holds up. And Jensen Ackles, he's the really good looking one in Supernatural. I mean,
and he's what now? He is Soldier Boy in The Boys season 3.
The Boys, yeah, Boys season, is it 2 or 3?
Season 3 that comes out in June.
Yeah, I mean that's a goddamn good show. Yeah, I love Jensen, not only because he's a great actor and he's got a great voice. He just seems like he seems like the kind of dude who you'd want to hang out with, And if you're listening, Jensen, PM me, mate, and we'll get a beer. I don't drink, but you can have one and I'll watch. And let you talk at me about supernatural stuff. Addie laughs at my jokes a lot, but you can't hear him for some reason because I'm talking when he's laughing. So if I stop... No, you can't hear him. For some reason, his laughs aren't being picked up, but I promise you, I'm hilarious. So yeah, Under the Red Hood, well worth a look. It had another adaptation of the the Superman Batman comic by Jeff Loeb, and this time it is the story of Supergirl. It's actually called Superman and Batman Apocalypse. Darkseid comes down, starts, causing a ruckus, as he is wont to do. And it's also the origin or the return in the comics. It was the return of Supergirl. It was drawn by Michael Turner, again, R.I.P. Tragic story, Michael Turner, fantastic young artist, died very, very young of cancer, and but had a huge impact on the comic world in the 90s. Created the character called Fathom, who you might recall, worked on Witchblade for a really long time. Just amazing artist, and yeah, he worked on that particular run. But yeah, it's basically that's the animated cinematic equivalent of Fuck Around and Find Out, because he gets his ass whooped by Darkseid gets his ass whooped by Supergirl. Then we have in 2011 All-Star Superman, which is an adaptation of, again, Frank Quitely and Grant Morrison's run of comics. All-Star Comics was a release to kind of not combat, but mirror what Marvel was doing with the Ultimates universe, where they relaunched their key characters, Avengers, Spider-Man, X-Men, in a modern context. So we got new origin stories, and it was very popular. They tried to do it in DC with All-Star Superman, which was still to this day is heralded as one of the greatest Superman stories ever told. But then they put Frank Miller and Jim Lee on All-Star Batman and Robin, and it was very controversial. Only because Frank Miller has some very particular ways of looking at characters, and he made Batman coarse and mean and very, very anti-hero, which is not what Batman is, even though he's a vigilante. It was also plagued with production issues and delays, and they kind of canned that whole thing, and then went on and relaunched with what ended up being the Earth 1 series of books. In 2011, we had Green Lantern Emerald Knights, which was much more about the Green Lantern Corp. Sorry again about the audio issues happening just there. Sounds like I'm underwater. 2011, we also had an adaptation of Batman Year One, which had fantastically voiced Jim Gordon by, what's his name? The guy from Breaking Bad. Bryan Cranston, the Cran Man. We call him Cranny. I don't know who we is, but I do. And then I think the same year, the following year, adaptation of Justice League, a run of the Justice League comic, in where Batman has devised a bunch of, plans to execute should any of the Justice League members become compromised. It's actually really... The animated film's fine, but that run of the comics is really good because it ends with Batman basically saying, I'm not going to be in the Justice League anymore because if all you motherfuckers... I mean, he doesn't say that, obviously, but in my head he does. But then again, if it was Ben Affleck, he would be swearing.
He would.
Yeah. He's a potty mouth. Says me. The most raw guy ever. Yeah, it's basically Batman at the end says, if all you Justice League homies don't understand why we need this, then I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
It's some of the most dangerous people on planet Earth if they were going to get flipped. And Superman says to him, he's like, well, what about you? What's the plan for stopping yourself? And Batman goes, you. If I flip, you're going to be the one to get me, So pretty cool. Then they also did an adaptation of a Superman adaptation, Superman versus the Elite. The Elite were a bunch of superheroes, sort of more modern, kind of hipster, hardcore superheroes who weren't worried about doing harm, kind of like the Authority. And they, at odds with Superman, who doesn't kill and doesn't maim. And that's an interesting look as well. I recently watched that. They did a 2-part Dark Knight Returns adaptation in 2012, which was pretty cool. We'll talk about that a bit more because when we get into Robbin, the Kerry Kelly Robbin, the first female Robbin, appeared in that book. He's played by Ariel Winter in the animated film. Peter Weller of RoboCop fame voiced Batman and Bruce Wayne in that 2-part series, which is pretty great. It's a really good double bill. They only go for an hour and 20 minutes each, so you're in and out pretty fast. And then finally, before we get into what is the longer DC connected animated universe, we have Superman Unbound, where he fights some stuff. And he punches some things just by looking at it. Supergirl is also involved. And the animation style varied quite a lot. But it's still worth a look. I don't remember it that well. Oh, Matt Boomer played Superman, which is pretty cool. He currently is on the Doom Patrol show. So, after that 10 minutes of me non-stop talking and ranting, thank you for listening. I'm sorry if that became boring for any of you. But then again, why are you here? We get to 2013, the release of Justice League, the Flashpoint Paradox. Addie, tell me about the Flashpoint Paradox, the animated film. I want to hear from you.
All right. So first of all, just listening to you, I have so much homework to do on DC now.
There's a lot. There's a lot of watching.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Don't stress yourself too much, though.
So I think because we have DCEU, which is DC Extended Universe, where we have films now, like live action films.
Yep.
But before that, we had the DCAU, which was, so it's DC Comics or Detective Comics animated universe.
Correct.
Right? So there we had Batman Beyond, Batman, the animated series, all those. Now, stemming from that, and the films that you described are all in the DCAU category. And now when we branch off to Flashpoint, we come in the DCAMU category. Jesus Christ, man.
The frustrated Jesus Christ. That's the moment of the podcast. That's awesome. Well done. Sorry.
It's fine. It's either
can't do it. The DCEU is universe. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, it's the God. Okay, give me a second here.
Sure.
It's the Detective Comics animated movie universe.
The DCAMUCRESPECT. Find out what it means to me. Christ. Yes. Okay. So, and that starts with the Flashpoint Paradox. Yes.
That starts with the Flashpoint Paradox.
Right.
And the Flashpoint Paradox, the comic, is holy grail. There's no better, or it's one of the best stories ever told in comic book history.
Agreed.
To me.
Oh, I think that's universally, you can't deny it. Whether you like it or not, you can't deny that it's a milestone.
Right. And it was the film, the Flashpoint Paradox. The film was my introduction to a connected universe of DC characters that I didn't know was possible at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what that universe does is it takes design and references from the New 52 continuation, which was after Crisis, correct?
Well, no. Flashpoint was actually the kind of the progenitor of that. When Barry returns to his time in Flashpoint in the comic, you notice that his costume's actually different. And by going back and changing things and then changing them back, he effectively launched the New 52 by changing the current universe, or what we understand to be Earth Prime. I am such a fucking nerd. I can't even get it.
I love you for that. Because if I was just going about it's like, why is he talking so much about one character?
It's totally true. But yeah, so that's sort of what happened. That's where it takes its cues from. Yeah, just before the New 52 launched.
And then it continues with just amazing and just, in my opinion, some of the best DC stories to have ever come. And it's a shame that now a lot of people watch those movies because they say, oh, it's animated and it's DC, it's cartoon. No, it's not. It's legit and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm sorry.
No, hey man, don't worry about swearing to me. There's so Justice League, Flashpoint Paradox followed a few years later, the following year by Justice League War, which was an adaptation of Jim Lee and I think Jeff Johns' New 52 Justice League book, which was their origin again. Also in 2014 was Son of Batman, which is an adaptation of the Andy Kubert and Grant Morrison, the beginning of Grant Morrison's run on Batman, which introduced Damian Wayne, his son with Talia, who ended up being Robbin.
Which is also a film that also shows a lot more of just Bruce's character as Batman, because most of the times we see Batman as Batman is Bruce Wayne, Batman's something that Bruce Wayne has always been. But when you go to Son of Batman, you actually see Bruce and how he reacts to things in a way that Batman would, but he also controls himself a lot. Because when Damian's introduced, Bruce has no idea who the fuck this kid is.
Yeah. He is the seed of my loins. Why am I singing? I'm singing a lot today. Yeah, it's the same in the comic. He at first he's really skeptical, and then when he finds out that, oh no, this is actually legitimately my child, he takes him into the Batcave, which is a great place for drama because you have this kid who's a trained assassin coming in and wanting to be Robbin and be like his dad, but he's also a murderer, and he gets into it with Dick and Tim. Yeah, it's fantastic pathos, and that's again continued a little bit later on. Like they kind of had the Justice League stories going on in this animated universe and the Batman stories.
It's like the Justice League story arc, which at the end of the whole universe, which we'll talk about, is the main focus of each film. But you have these characters introduced in Justice League War, which is I think the first appearance of Darkseid in this universe, right?
Correct.
Right, which I remember watching that, and I was like, "Whoa!" It's the introduction of these characters, right? I think Flash knows Batman, and Hal Jordan's Green Lantern knows that Flash and Batman exist in places, but it's all of these people just coming together and just straight up beating the shit out of Darkseid and that final battle. It's so amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of what you wanted from Zack Snyder's Justice League, really. What would have been the sequel would have been that, you know.
And the last push with it's Superman punching Darkseid, and it's Wonder Woman throwing the sword, and it's Batman on the portal trying his best to pull Darkseid in.
Yeah.
It's like Batman's fucking Spider-Man or Doctor Strange portal.
Yeah, right. So years before too. Absolutely. I think though the best part about that story is you get to see the Justice League interact in a way that you haven't before because they're all established and they know each other. Like you said, they know each other exists, and Hal Jordan and Batman are in a sewer together, and Hal Jordan's like, hang on a second, you're just a guy? And Hal's like, no, you can't stop me from doing anything because I'm a superhero. And he's like, well, you know what? I think I actually probably can. And he looks down, and Batman's like, what's this? And he's holding the oh goddamn audio mixes up. Sorry, he's holding the ring. And then Hal's, costume goes away, and he's like, hey, you just got pickpocketed by Batman, and you're supposed to be the guardian of this sector of space. You're shit. You're a shit cop. Serious, man. Not good at his job. And that's interesting. And Superman's kind of a little aloof because he's still trying to figure out who he is and on planet Earth, and he hasn't kind of discovered the Clark part of himself yet, really. And it's a great series. It's a really great series. And that was followed up. So it's Justice League War, and then Son of Batman. Batman Assault on Arkham, which is basically a Suicide Squad story. And then that was
I
sort
don't
of...
have that in my list here.
Yeah, well, that's not actually part of... I don't think it connects in terms of continuity with these other ones.
Okay.
It has the same
just
similar animation style, but I mean, Kevin Conroy returned to voice Batman for that one, so it is a bit of an Elseworlds kind of thing in terms of this, continuity. But after Son of Batman in 2015, it was Justice League Throne of Atlantis, which is based on the second arc of the New 52 Justice League by Jeff Johns and Jim Lee, where Aquaman comes into it. A blonde Aquaman, which is not what we're used to.
I think, right, what's your opinion on this film?
It's honestly a little while since I've seen it. I like Aquaman. I've always said, people, what superpower would you like to have? Would you like to be able to fly, or would you like to be able to turn money into cake, or would you like to be able to, do backflips and fart? Like, what is your ideal superpower? Probably not that last one, but what is your ideal superpower? And mine would be Aquaman's, to be able to, swim at any depth, be invulnerable to cold and pressure, and be able to talk to fish, or talk to animals at least. I think he's a cool character. I currently collect the Aquaman series, which is pretty cool, and I absolutely recommend that. But the film, I don't remember a lot of it. I'm actually kind of conflating it with the comic a little bit. The story's interesting, that Atlantis kind of attacks and the Justice League has to contend with that, and Aquaman is seen as a villain at first, which he generally is, even though it's kind of... I'm not sure if Marvel ripped off them or they ripped off Marvel with Namor, but either way, it's very...
No, Namor was first.
Namor was first? Okay, right.
Yeah.
See, that's why you have other nerds on your podcast to answer questions like that about Namor. And... But my most favorite part of it is where they're all just basically joking about how Aquaman is ineffectual in terms of his ability to combat evil, and he summons a giant shark, and it just destroys this pier and all these bad guys on it, and he's just sort of real cool about the whole thing. Just summon a giant shark, a megalodon, just summoned a megalodon, whatever. It's no problem. And Jason Statham was nowhere to be seen. Have you seen that movie, The Meg? About the giant shark? You have, and Jason Statham punches a giant shark in the head. That's a sentence that no one ever needed to say. Ridiculous.
And that, to anyone who hasn't watched the film, that's the least Jason Statham thing he's done in that film.
I know. I mean, apart from walking around with abs and being bald, but yeah. Sorry, what's that? Sorry. No, you go.
And the film has Dwight Schrute from the U.S. Office in it, which was just fantastic to see.
Yeah, he's... spoiler alert, he gets ate. He gets ate by a giant megalodon, which is a prehistoric giant shark. I kind of want to watch that movie tonight. It's pretty dodgy and it's real bloodless, but I'd love to see Jason Statham put that spear in that shark again, But anyway, regardless of all that, what did you think of the Throne of Atlantis? I mean, it wasn't as good as War, but...
I mean, but could anything else at that point in that universe could be as good as War?
Yeah, no, not at that point. That was definitely the high watermark. They're only a few movies in, but... Yeah,
it's like what? It's like the fifth film.
One, two... Well, I mean, technically it's only the third, if you're not counting Batman Assault on Arkham. And then... Because they came out so quickly, so it was Justice League War and Son of Batman in the same year, 2014, and then Justice League Throne of Atlantis and Batman versus Robbin in 2015, which, if I'm not mistaken, is... I'm pretty sure that's where Dick takes over as Batman, isn't it?
I have not seen that one, but Jesus Christ, with that, I will see it immediately.
Yeah, no, I think... Hang on, I'm just looking. No, actually, maybe I'm mistaken.
It's alright. It's alright.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it, but it's definitely... Damian Wayne struggles to... I'm just reading the IMDb thing. It's mostly about Damian Wayne. Damian struggles to cope with Batman's no-killing rule. He soon starts to believe his destiny lies with a secret society known as the Court of Owls, which of course is based off Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's. I hope that I'm saying that name right. Sorry, Greg, if you're listening, because he's a regular of our podcast. Their run on Batman New 52, which started with the Court of Owls, which is still considered, again, it was only, 12 years ago or something, still considered one of the greatest Batman stories of all time, and kind of where I think the Batman movie series is leaning, definitely.
For me, Throne of Atlantis is the tipping point towards where creators were like, okay, so we have these characters now, and we've had fun with Justice League War and Son of Batman. Now what do we do when we have all of these in the same universe? And I think Throne of Atlantis is where they're like, we know where all of this is going to combine.
Yeah.
And it's a stepping point towards something that it's Jesus Christ. That the last film is something to talk about. Is what I'm gonna say.
Justice League Dark.
Justice League Dark, Apocalypse War.
We'll Apocalypse War is we'll get to that in just a second, but yeah, it does all lead to that. So yeah, the Batman versus Robin in 2015. There was also one called Justice League Gods and Monsters in 2015 that I haven't seen, which is, I believe, it's set in an alternate universe. There was some offshoots of the Batman Unlimited TV series as well. There was also another run in another film in the Batman run here called Batman Bad Blood. Now that is definitely a film in which Bruce Wayne is absent and Dick has taken over the cowl and Damian is his Robbin. That's based on a good portion of Grant Morrison's run when Batman was stuck in time after Final Crisis. Which I recently read, and it's like reading an instruction manual for a DVD player that comes from Jupiter. Like it's just it's a hard, like I love Grant Morrison, but sometimes he writes just for himself. But that's definitely worth a look. It's it's same sort of animation style as well. God damn it, I keep losing this page.
I've got the continuity ones with the ones that they were like in the continuity of
the connected ones. Is that Justice League Teen Titans on that? Because that was one.
Yeah, Justice League versus Teen Titans is on that. It's right after Bad Blood, and I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. But listen to this cast: Rosario Dawson as Wonder Woman. She's been doing that for a while. Shamir Moore from Criminal Minds and SWAT as Cyborg. Jerry O'Connell from Superman and Clark Kent. Jason O'Mara plays Batman and Bruce Wayne, which is funny because he's Irish as the day is long. And that's right. And Sean Meyer plays Nightwing, and he's the Doctor in Firefly. But yeah, no, I haven't seen that one either. But immediately following that was out of continuity.
Wait, sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, go for it. What were you gonna say?
No, because I have the continuity list. So I was like, the next one is Justice League Dark, and I cut you off.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just wanted to hit on the ones that even weren't there, because some of them are good. One of them was the adaptation of Batman: The Killing Joke, which Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill returned for. There's some issues in that. The opening act of that film does not appear in the graphic novel of Killing Joke, and it involves Batman and Batwoman sleeping together on a rooftop. I ain't got a problem with that sexy business. Do whatever you want. But fans were not happy that they made adjustments to that story. It's also the last Batman story, really, the last Batman and Joker story in the comic books. That is absolutely at the end. Batman is at the end of his rope and he snaps the Joker's neck. They kind of allude to that in Addie looks really surprised. Yeah, I didn't realize that either, and I was listening to a podcast on which, funnily enough, Grant Morrison was talking about it with Kevin Smith, the filmmaker, and they were on his podcast, Fat Man on Batman, years ago, and they were talking about best Batman stories, and Kevin mentioned that, and he said, well, yeah, it's the last Batman story, because at the end of it, you don't hear like the cracking of the neck, but the Joker's laughing after telling that joke. Batman laughs as well. He tells him that final joke about those insane people, and then all of a sudden the laughter stops, and that's the end of the book. That's the final Batman story, really. They didn't do it like super justice in terms of animation style either. They didn't take Brian Boylan's style and make it animated the way that they had with some of the other designs ones. But that lives out of this continuity. And the other one I just want to mention before we get to Justice League Dark is Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders, which came out in 2016. This was an animated sequel to the 1960s Batman series with Adam West and Burt Ward. It also, Julie Newmar also played Catwoman. These were very old people who came back to play these iconic characters that they had played in the past, and they mirrored the style of that show in the animation, which is pretty cool. And then 2017, we have the first of what is a two-part kind of end of this universe, Justice League Dark. Now, for those of you not familiar with Justice League Dark, it is a story about the Justice League in this universe, not if they were facing what I would call global and intergalactic threats. They face mystical threats. You have people like Zatanna, John Constantine, the demon Etrigan, fucking Swamp Thing, like just some of the best characters that DC has to offer, and they put them in this animated movie. John Constantine is actually voiced by Matt Ryan, who played John Constantine in live action. Yeah, on the TV series and in the Arrowverse. Very, very cool. So yeah, that's the first one. Batman also appears in that as well, as kind of a way for people to kind of be like, oh, what's this? Batman's in it. I'll have a look. Wonder Woman as well. So like, this is really where it got something for me. What was your experience of seeing this film, Addie?
First of all, I wanna say that Zatanna and her father's, I'm gonna butcher his name, so I need you to help me out. What's her father's name?
Zatanna's father?
Yes.
Oh,
is it
Sugar
Zatan?
I don't know. So is it Zatanna's father, or is it it's Raven's, isn't it?
No, Raven's. As far as I can say, the Raven's father is the devil.
Yeah, okay. Maybe hang on, let me just have a look on here. Zatanna brings together powers. It doesn't say on.
Okay, so Zatanna's father is Zatara, and
okay.
these are two mystic beings, but human beings who have mystical powers.
Yes.
And there's an amazing arc in a show called Young Justice, which is just fabulous.
Yeah, super popular.
Where we see Zatanna and her father have this relationship, and it's Zatara, who's Zatanna's father, again, just so I can remember, who becomes Dr. Fate.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, Dr. Fate. Fantastic.
And to be honest, Zatanna is, and especially that arc of how she has to let go of the father that she just got so that the world can be saved.
Mm-hmm.
And also joining a team of Young Justice. It's one of those things that I've not read the comics as much as you have, so I don't know if that's something that's straight from the comics or not. But I don't think there's any other story that's like so much rooted in just that universe.
Yeah.
Like, and Zatanna is one of those characters which, if they do it right, you will fall in love with immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I also hate that if DC ever does Zatanna in live action, they're going to just overly sexualize a character, and it's going to take away so much from what her story is. Because when we started with Zatanna, she's a broken person who finds a family with the Young Justice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree. No, you're absolutely right, and she has been. I mean, all comic books are terribly, and this is through modern eyes as well. So you can't, in some ways, you can't look at the past and place too much judgment because we were in a different time. But in a more modern context, most of the characters in these universes were overly sexualized. The men were too. There's a lot of muscles bulging in places where they don't tend to bulge. Realistic interpretations, not so much. Unless you are reading Kingdom Come, where it's pretty bang on. But Zatanna's, it's 90% of the time. Well, I mean, for those of you who don't know, Kingdom Come was illustrated by Alex Ross, who's a painter, and he paints true to life, and it's incredible. It's like watching a movie, isn't it, Addie?
It is. It's amazing.
Yeah. How they never did an animated version of that, I don't know, but it's, probably.
Could you imagine just the first chapter of that speech, or like just that scene where Superman's farming in that cage?
It's the VR kind of thing, and just God. the part where the incident happens, the inciting incident of the hero exploding, Parasite, I think his name was. It's pretty incredible. But I mean, traditionally comics aren't known for their accurate depictions of the human form, and Zatanna does tend to wear fishnets, which are impractical, whence fighting crime while wielding magic. So Justice League Dark, the original film, comes out in 2017. It's really good. Like, if you get a chance to see it, do. Following year, we get Teen Titans, the Judas Contract, which is based on, I think it's Marv Wolfman and George Perez. Shout out to George Perez too as well. He's quite ill at the moment. He's not long for this world. Remarkable writer, artist and writer. Worked on some of your favorite stuff, I guarantee. Avengers, Justice League, Crisis on Infinite Earths is all him. Incredible artist. But they did a series of Teen Titans in the 80s, and this story, in particular the Judas Contract, where Deathstroke sort of betrays them. I haven't seen that animated film, but the comic line is pretty great. And then I do believe in
the Suicide Squad one is in the continuity there.
It is? Oh, okay. What's that? Hell to Pay, is it?
Hell to Pay.
Hell to Pay, yeah, right. And that came out to kind of coincide with the Suicide Squad film, if I'm not mistaken. And then before we sort of drop out of this continuity, we get to the tip of the spear, the piece de resistance, Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. Now,
wait a minute.
What's up? What did I do wrong?
You skipped over one of the biggest ones here.
What?
You skipped over the death of Superman.
That's after, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's Hell to Play, then Death of Superman. Then goes City of Demons, and then Reign of Superman. Jesus.
Yeah. Someone's getting saucy on this podcast. No, you're right. I'm sorry. I thought I'd be. No, it's fine, brother. It's fine. I'm just messing with you. Oh, and also missed over Scooby-Doo and Batman. No, you're absolutely right. And then there was Justice League, Judas Contract, Batman and Harley Quinn was pretty cool. That was a mature one where Harley Quinn has some afternoon delight with your boy Dick Grayson while he's tied to a bed. She doesn't assault him. She doesn't take advantage of him. He's into it, and why wouldn't you be? And then there's
imagining stuff here.
What? Sorry.
My mind's playing games. I'm imagining stuff now. Dick and Harley.
See that movie, and you don't have to imagine. They've done it for you in Technicolor. It's some sexy business.
Oh, yes. Let's go.
It's actually a really good... I mean, I love the character of Harley, especially when she's done solo and not part of an ensemble. That animated series, the Harley Quinn animated series, is really good. Batman vs. Two-Face, which is another animated movie based on the 60s series. Then we have an Elseworld story called Gotham by Gaslight, which was originally illustrated by Mike Mignola of Hellboy fame. where Batman is in Victorian London going after a Jack the Ripper type character, which I believe ends up being the Joker, but that's Elseworlds. Yeah, Suicide Squad held to pay in 2018 post the Suicide Squad movie. And then, yes, the two-part Death of Superman and the Reign of the Supermen, which was a more accurate representation of the Death of Superman books, as we talked about before. Justice League versus the Fatal Five. I haven't seen that one. We had an adaptation of Hush.
We did, which is, I'm going to say something here. I know that Hush is a really beloved comic and a really, really well done game. But Batman Hush is also, I think it's a short film that they did, which is in the continuity. But I don't think it lives up to what they kind of wanted to do with telling the last story with Batman in this continuity.
Because I agree, yeah.
It definitely doesn't fit. I mean, the Batman in this universe is quirky and fun, but it's also really dark. But Batman Hush is a mixture of those just quirky and fun and dark that it just doesn't work there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And if you want to enjoy Hush, read the books. Read the 12-issue series. Go and get the trades. It's really good. Jeff Loeb and the return of Jim Lee to, monthly comic work after, some time running Wildstorm. Beautiful. It's my sister-in-law Alex, who I talk about a lot because she's a big comics nerd. I lent her the trades of that during one of our lockdowns here in Melbourne in 2020. And she loved it so much. We talked about it for weeks on end. And I went and bought her you can get a big volume of all of it, which has got, special edition kind of limited sketches and interviews with the creators and script pages and all that stuff. Go and treat yourself. If you're a comic fan, go and pick that up. Definitely worth a look. Wonder Woman Bloodline, which is a Wonder Woman movie about bloodlines, obviously. Rosario Dawson returning as Wonder Woman, which is great. I love Rosario. Adaptation of Superman the Red Sun, which is actually a really baller idea.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Have you not seen that one?
I loved that one. I had no idea that's not in the continuity until now.
No, man. It's an Elseworlds. Yeah. That's all right. That's fine. But yeah, based on the graphic novel by Mark Miller and David Johnson, where Superman or Kal-El's spaceship, instead of landing in the United States, lands in what I believe would be the USSR or the Soviet Union at that time.
Yes.
And he is he is brought up as basically a communist mouthpiece and a Stalin-like figure. Pretty intense, but great story, really good story. And then we have, as I said, messing up before, Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. It's really great. I know why I like it. Why do you like it, Addie?
So I have to backtrack a bit because I really have to talk about Death of Superman. And
Reign of Superman. Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to run roughshod over the whole thing. I'm just trying to hit all the beats. But yeah, please rewind to Superman, Death of Superman.
So Death of Superman it's what we were supposed to get in BVS, right? It's what we practically got. But you see the end of BVS and you see, I'm not comparing here, but of course I am. And you see Death of Superman. Oh my God, that film. It's just dark. That's where they're like, oh, we know what we're doing, and you're not ready for it. that's their mission statement. It's like we are going to. I choked up when Superman dies there because it's done so comic book where it is his cape that's flying there at the end where he dies in Lois's arms. Oh my God. Could you ever imagine? And it's so weird that it's one of the biggest points I have is why I want to discuss the DCAU here today is that you have the live action films going on and you have these films going on. And to be quite frank, these films were better than the ones we got. And it's sad to see that, you know, there was a company who was doing these two things simultaneously. And why couldn't have they just, you know, just crossed over and just, you know, looked at what each of them were doing? And it's a shame that that the at least the continuity with the Flashpoint universe of films, it it could have been such an amazing blueprint for what DCEU could have been, and it would have been perfect.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I do feel like they can do things in animation that you can't do in live action, though.
Of course,
not
and that's
quickly.
yeah, for sure. I mean, you could like what Doomsday killing Superman could in animation could take what 6 months
Yeah.
to animate, and in live action it could take a whole year.
Yeah, well, I mean, not even that. I was kind of being facetious when I said time, but I more meant that in animation there's a lot more give as far as what people will perceive to be real. You know that this is an artifice. It's fake in front of you. And I'm not talking about the uncanny valley of it. I'm just talking about it's a cartoon. So there's an immediate disconnect from reality. And you can do things in that space that you can't do in animation because people read real life action stuff as this is real life. And if it doesn't look right, then it's clearly wrong. Whereas animation, there's a little bit more latitude. So that was sort of more what I meant. But yeah, you're totally right. It would take longer to express those ideas in a live action format, whether it's CG animation or whatever.
And then when you continue that with, I know we have Constantine in there, but I think that film is again something that loosely connects to it, but also does build up to Apocalypse War. Yes. I think that's the straight up build up, right?
Yeah.
That's the straight one there.
Yeah. And you know, you get to Apocalypse War and it is a sequel to Justice League Dark. And it brings in Jack Kirby's New Gods characters, and it is set in a universe where the heroes have lost against Darkseid. And I'll just give it a quick overview. You know, Superman has been poisoned with kryptonite. He no longer has his abilities. The demon Etrigan is so bemused and upset by the loss of life and their inability to overcome Darkseid and his hordes that he stopped rhyming. The demon Etrigan constantly rhymes. And, you know, Batman is now a slave of Darkseid. A lot of the heroes have died. Wonder Woman has been, you know, maimed horribly. They're just doing, you know, Cyborg has become part of Darkseid's technology, part of his ship. It does things with the characters, and then your into that is Constantine and him reluctantly coming on board for this crazy plan that can hopefully, you know, change the way things have been, change the way things were, and his love story with Zatanna as well, just beautifully pitched. And like I said before, doing things with these characters that are, and I think I covered this in one of my episodes of the Stitch Up when we did Zack Snyder's Justice League or the Snyder Cut or whatever. They don't make big moves like this in the movies because it's too risky. But it's the most interesting DC film that they've ever made.
Absolutely, and it's inspiration for something that for me is something in my mind that I want to make, and it's that one opening shot of just everyone dying in that film.
Yeah,
it's there's no dialogue, and you see Shazam dying, you see Hal Jordan dying, and you see just everyone you've known in this universe just being beat up as shit. And you have the beautiful ending with the Flash. When he runs, I think he reverses time, right?
He does, yeah. Him and Constantine come up with a plan to change it back because they become aware of what happened in Flashpoint, how the continuity was changed. And he says, you know, well, I guess we'll see what it'll be. He runs back in time and the screen turns white, and that's it. That's as far as we go with those with those characters in that continuity. And
It's beautiful to see. Wait, sorry.
No, you go. Yeah.
Sorry. I was just saying that it's beautiful to see how we started with the Flashpoint and we end with kind of understanding what happened and then realizing that should have never happened in the first place.
Yeah, very true. Even though you got so much going on with these characters in a way that you hadn't seen before, you do get to a place where it's like, oh, this has all been wrong, which is an interesting part of multi-universal ideas in comic book continuity, DC or Marvel, is how things are changed and you get a lot out of that story-wise, but then the tradition of what you understand is sometimes refreshing when it does come back. It's why they reboot stuff all the time. They've just done it with a bunch of comics, a bunch of DC stuff, and Marvel too. Punisher just got a new issue 1 as well, which is where he's no longer using guns as weapons and stuff. Like, you have to reinvent this shit because people... Yeah, I mean, they could have kept going with that universe and whatever. I really liked the Constantine film that they made as well after that, which was pretty cool, but I don't think it was part of that continuity. Yeah, I thought it was pretty baller. They did an adaptation of the Hush series. They did a Justice Society World War II. Batman Soul of the Dragon's pretty awesome. It's got a great soundtrack, at least. It's like a 70s kung fu Batman movie. Superman Man of Tomorrow, which was launched as part of the DC fandom in 2020, which I watched.
That was it's the continuation. I'm sorry to cut you off here, but
no, not at all.
I think for me, how it comes down to is that this continuity with the Flashpoint, right? It's something that I fell in love with, and then we saw the disconnect, or I'll say, with the animated films doing so well and just being so much story, and it's embracing fan with it. It's embracing each and every fan with every single film.
Yep.
Kind of the rise of DCU in the same timeline, and it's just weird how you have these two universes, and then especially for me because I fell in love with this continuity, and then it gets rebooted, and now they have Man of Tomorrow, which was the first film they did after Apocalypse War, I think.
Yeah, it was the year after,
and it's like how you would have felt after Crisis of Infinite Earths, and then you have the new continuity with Flashpoint, and it's something that's very interesting to just think about, is that I felt what you felt after reading the Flashpoint, but I saw the films and still felt the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you said, is that we don't it's so much risk that it has to be done in animation.
Yeah.
And it pays off, man. Like, that's the biggest thing about these films, is it pays off so perfectly. And I love how they have like a new kind of drawn Jack Kirby style of animation now with Superman Man of Tomorrow, and especially it was amazing to see that in Wonder Woman. Was it Wonder Woman or just World War II Society?
Yeah, Justice Society World War II. Yeah, it did have that kind of that Kirby-esque, very 1950s, 1960s blocky style animation. It was cool. I dug it a lot.
And then from there we go on to, it was Injustice that came out last year.
Yep, based on the super popular video game and comic series written by Australian comic wunderkind, Melbourne boy Tom Taylor.
Represent.
Tom Taylor, sorry, I think it is, because his Instagram handle is TaylorMade. Sorry, Tom, if you're listening, because I know that you always are. I at you all the time, and you never at me back.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Well, I read a lot of his stuff, with my comics and my coffee, and then I can't talk. My coffee and comics posts that I make in the morning times, and I collect everything that he sets out because I think he's a great writer. So hopeful. There's so much hope in his work. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about that one for sure.
I think so. That we need to spend some time on, in particular, Superman, the son of Kal-El, which is about Jonathan Kent, which caused a big stir when he was revealed as being bisexual, and because the internet's fucking swamp, everybody went completely bananas, and they really shouldn't have. The guy still gets like threats from people for making Superman anything other than completely cis, and it's ridiculous. But he's such a pimp. It's actually the reason. Sorry, this is a tangent, but I want to get into it. Tom Taylor is this playwright from Melbourne who works in comics. He's got an exclusive deal with DC. He's written some of the best work they've brought out. Sorry about the audio issues again. He's currently writing Nightwing. It's the best Nightwing has been since the late 90s, early 2000s, when Chuck Dixon was on the book with Scott McCloud and Scott McDaniel. And he's also writing, Deceased, which is an Elseworld story about the world getting taken over by the anti-life theorem, but it turns everyone into zombies. And it's just, he's also got his creator-owned series, Seven Secrets, which is really great. Look, he's a great writer, and he's working on Superman. And they say to him, "Look, we're going to relaunch Superman. Kal-El, Clark Kent, is going into space with the Authority to fight something." Grant Morrison writes a little lead-up book to that, and then boom, Kal-El is gone for most part of, in the DCU, and Jonathan takes over. Everybody knows who Jonathan is. He doesn't have a secret identity, and within the first few issues of that book, he is revealed as being bisexual, like I said. And that's because they asked Tom to do it, and he said, "Well, I don't just want to do another great white savior book. Can we make this interesting? Can we tell a story and represent some people who have been underrepresented?" A beautiful sentiment. And you get over the fact that it's two, people who were born men being in a romantic relationship really quickly. Like it's just a love story, and it's a really beautiful love story. Like Superman being nervous about going on a date with this person, this other guy. He's like, I'm Superman. I've got all the powers in the world, and yet I'm terrified of having pizza with this person because I have real feelings for them. It's wonderful. But the thing that got me interested in Tom is that he, on Facebook and Instagram, he gets a lot of messages, literal death threats from people, which is just ludicrous. There's some really unhinged and damaged people out there who need help. And they say to him, "Hey, how dare you make Superman gay? Slur, you're horrible, swear word." He then donates $50 to a LGBTQ or LGBTQ adjacent charity in that person's name. Right? Yeah. And then posts it on social media. So what an amazing way to deal with hate. And I was like, I felt like Leonardo DiCaprio in Django Unchained. I was like, "You have my attention." And I went and got, I went and got that book. I went and got Superman, Son of Kal-El. I was about 7 issues or something behind. I went and got the back issues. I started reading it, and I was like, "This guy is the truth. This guy is legit." And I now get all of his stuff because, again, he's telling interesting stories in a new and dynamic way that is surprising a 40-year-old a comic nerd who has been reading since he was 3 years old, when you've got his first Spider-Man book, or 4 or 5, however old I was. To excite me about comics again is just, I owe that guy a lot, and I think he's doing some beautiful work, and also dealing with hatefulness in a really intelligent, articulate, and modern fashion, without violence, without being horrible back to a person, dealing with it in a smart, intelligent way that isn't about hate, that is about putting love out into the world. Like, if you send me hate, I'm going to send love to someone else, as a combatant of that. What a legend. Anyway, so Tom, at me, mate.
Hey,
total rant. Now look, we need to get into the Robbins. Are you ready to talk about Robbin?
Holy hell. So can I just go back to what you were saying?
Please
back
do.
to your rant for a bit.
Yeah, that's why I just wanted to check, make sure where we were, because I kind of ranted for a second, but I do that.
Yeah, I love it, man.
Thanks.
So a friend of mine on Instagram is called Kenobi Reviews, who has a post up right now called
Sorry,
Why
say the name
Man?
again. You cracked
It's called, his handle is Kenobi Reviews.
Love Kenobi Reviews. Great writer.
Right?
Great writer. Absolutely.
I know, right?
Yeah,
Amazing.
really good.
An amazing person to talk to.
Yep.
He has a post up right now called Why Superman Matters, and he talks about why Jonathan Kent.
Yep.
Jonathan, sorry.
No, it's okay.
And he talks about why it matters for Jonathan Kent to be bi. And it's amazingly written. I'm not going to say a lot about it, but do check out that post because that man's legendary at everything he does. And like, that post made me cry. It was so fucking well written.
It was pretty beautiful. And he is they, I'm not really sure of their gender or how they identify, Kenobi Reviews. They are a very good writer. No, that's fine. Like, we don't know. It's hard on Instagram. We've had that conversation before. But they are a very good writer. They have wonderful prose and beautiful sentence structure and very passionate syntax when writing. So yeah, do check them out. It's well worth your time. And we'll tag them in this post as well.
Absolutely. And he makes amazing points there. And yeah, I mean, I want to swear, I really want to just punch people in the teeth when they say, why would you ruin Superman? Because grow the fuck up. It's not even Clark Kent.
Yeah. And even if it was, what's the big deal?
Exactly. And this is my main point is, what if it was, right? What if it was Clark Kent? What's the one thing that Superman stands for?
Hope.
It's hope. It's hope. It's hope for a better future, and it's hope for humanity. And we live in a world where it's really it's very easy to hate on people. And if you hate on people based on the fact of who they are, fuck you.
Agreed.
Right? Yeah. I'm sorry, but I'm not. So I love that they did that. I love that Tom Taylor did that, and I am absolutely in love with. Of course, it was gonna have backlashing, and he knew that. Of course, he did.
Yeah, he's a controversial, writer as it is because he's modern. He's not afraid to be of the time.
It's something that the films haven't acknowledged as well, and it's something that it's representation at its best is what it is. Like you're not forcing it on somebody. You're not forcing it on the character. It's a completely new character, and it's hopeful for people to see how they are to see Superman, how he is, if that makes sense. And just finding hope that we're not alone here.
Yeah, that there is there is a voice for you in this realm, that you're not completely surrounded by, like he said, great white saviors, Batman, Superman, Flash, Green Lantern. These are all straight white men. And we live in a different time. We live in a time where representation is important, and someone like Tom Taylor's work is elevated by its modern understandings of diversity. If you're not on board with that, then stop reading, or go back and read stuff from another time. It's not for you. This is not for you anymore. Yeah. And you were saying before, it's not even Clark Kent. That's very true. But even if it was,
it wouldn't really matter.
Yeah, there's no real. It reminds me of and it's speaking about hope as well. In Son of Kal-El, he's a very what would be termed woke character, because he's more interested in the people he saves than the people he is fighting. And when there is collateral damage, he suffers emotionally because of it, and he is interested in preserving the planet. There's a whole 2-issue series with the new Aquaman, who it's about conservation, and he's part of a sort of internet paramilitary news group who are going after these corrupt people. Like he's part of that with his boyfriend, and there's just some interesting ideas going on. And he's such a hopeful character that he always wants to see the best and be the best and bring out the best, and punching isn't always the answer, the way that even his dad sometimes thinks it is. And it just it reminds me of, the Clark Kent idea, and, what if Clark was gay or whatever, how the Sony hacks happened, and it said that Peter Parker always has to be straight and white, basically. And I'm reminded of Todd Mcfarlane, the creator of Spawn and co-founder of Image, worked on Spider-Man for a really long time. And during the press tour for the Spawn movie years and years ago, he had a conversation with someone on camera about the fact that nobody knows really, people who go up against him, criminals and the like, don't really know what race Spider-Man is. And I guess you probably don't even know what gender. And he always wanted to write a story where Spider-Man, interrupts the mugging of an African-American person, or an Asian person or something. And, something, the cops come and take the robbers away and whatever the hell it is. And, or the robbers were of color, and the cop says, "Oh, those bloody," and then uses whatever derogatory word you want to put on a race. I'm not going to mention any right now because they're ugly and disgusting. And Spider-Man slams this police officer up against the wall and points and says, "What color do you think I am under this mask?" And I always loved that idea of these superheroes should represent, color or mask or otherwise, should represent the ideal of what, as human beings, we should strive for in interacting with each other, not saving the world or, solving problems or crises or just beating the other guy, whatever it is. They should be like things, like you said, hope, things for us to look to and go, we can do better. We can be better. And having a character like Jonathan Kent, being the character that he is, written by the writer he is, it's showing that possibility to a generation of kids who are only just discovering comic books and being influenced by heroism. So, man, we just got serious. We got serious, but sometimes
this is what we do here. This is what we do here.
We've got to take this stuff for real. So thank you very much for listening to that. I hope you do go and check out Tom Taylor's work. It is really great. And there's a lot of books out there right now that are doing some really interesting stuff with characters you're familiar with and some that you're not as well. So, but before we move on, we're going to talk about, as I said at the beginning, the original gangster of sidekicks, Robbin. All right, folks, we're going to put a little button in it just there before we get into really deep talking about the Robbins, because let's face it, this episode was getting long. So come back next week for part 2, where we talk about the Boy Wonder for a good long while. So we'll see you then.